So today seems like one of the more pivotal days in American history. Doesn't it? Feels like one of those days that you'll remember forever, um, of maybe where you are, as well as what happened today, how you felt, and where you're going with it. I think this is a moment where we have such heightened division in this country that we've seen leading up to the ICE activities in Minnesota. A ton of different news stories from left and right that have not matched up. And now we're in a moment where this kind of starts to transcend what people see beyond the news, who aren't just people who look at the news, but instead, it gets into people who aren't paying attention at this point, and now they're paying attention. This is the kind of thing that goes viral throughout our entire country. And so, what is the role right now of bringing people together, or keeping people, or having other people be accountable, or stoking division? How do we move forward? And what we wanted to do today is talk about this, definitely, but also talk about what different news sources out there are showing, because your news source on your phone as you're scrolling might not be what other people are seeing. And so we'll go through that today. And Chad, please introduce yourself for those of our viewers who don't know you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chad Snow. I'm the Director of Civic Engagement at Do Something Southern Indiana. We're a private, nonprofit, bipartisan or nonpartisan political action or civic action group.
Great. Well, thanks for being on today. The way we're going to start here is by watching this video together. I think let's see it with our own eyes, and we will go from there.
Let's warn viewers about some of the sensitive nature of this video.
It's certainly sensitive nature here, and if you're worried about the sounds of gunshots, if you have children around, please watch this appropriately. If you haven't seen it yet, here it is.
Go. What the fuck is wrong with you? People, what the fuck is wrong with you? Honestly. What did you just do? What the did you just do? What the? What the? Oh my god! 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 The did you just do? The did you just do? Yes, Liz, somebody call the ambulance. Somebody call the ambulance. Somebody needs to call the ambulance. Somebody call 911. I can't believe they just did that. Holy holy. Just get come on. Come on. Oh my god, you people, man. You're killing us. Why would you do that? Oh my God! Oh my God! I can't believe I'm seeing this. I can't believe I'm seeing this. Oh my God! Come on! Come on! Come on! Come here! Come on! Come here! It is.
Again, very hard to watch. This is brand new video.
Okay. Chad, what did you see?
That is so hard to watch. I'm physically shaking as I watch that. I'm feeling a sense of mixed feelings: anger, sadness, grief, shock, horror, fear, sadness. It's awful.
Disbelief is what comes. I can't believe I'm actually watching that it's actually real, that it's actually here in the United States.
I'll just share honestly one of the reactions that I was having as I watched this video this time. Just the irony of the fact that the media needed to censor her language at times, as if that were the real horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt the same way. There was someone cursed in the beginning, and then toward the end they were bleeping it out, and you're like, what is? Yeah.
So,
If we're
it just
watching
feels like a metaphor for how we've lost sight of what's important in so many ways.
Okay. So what I want to talk about here is what the news is saying, right? This was a local news stream that we just watched. And the national news has very different takes on this right now. And many of you know who watch that I read the very rightward blogs, the very leftward blogs. I like to read the things in the middle and the left and the right. And I spent about 3 hours just now going through all of it to see what it was all like. The thing that was most amazing to me, actually, was that Fox News doesn't have the video. I cannot find the video anywhere on Fox News. It may be there. It may be
But
there
too
because
hard to
someone's going
find.
to fact check me and say it's there somewhere. Sure. But I can't find it. It's certainly not on the front page. And so I just want to share what Fox News is showing right now. Democrats flip on government funding after border agent fatally shoots Minnesota man. So, they're going after the Democratic Party as the thing that they're talking about. They have this article here of what we know. I went through it again. I can't find the video anywhere on it. They do have a shorter clip video that's been floating around that you may have seen from kind of 180 degrees view. Someone had a phone. There's cars kind of blocking out what exactly happened. It's not the greatest view. But it did actually clearly show that Alex Preddy had a phone in his hand and not a gun at the time. It's just not. It's not what we're talking about on this channel.
Right.
And I'm going to show you what it looks like on, let's go with NPR, right? So left and right. And here's NPR. And it's right there at the top. Man shot dead by federal immigration officers in Minneapolis. Now, Sarah and I do these shows very often where we look into left and right media. And what you saw on the right and on Fox was, let's talk about Democrats being a problem. Often we see on the leftward things, especially CNN, others, let's talk about Republicans being the problem. I'm not seeing that today. I'm not seeing that on the left today or the center. And I think it's because as we just watch that collectively with the over 50 people watching this right this moment together as a group, what you saw doesn't need we don't need to talk and blame things on Republicans or Democrats in that moment, right? It is a human moment where you are so sucked into it and say, what I'm watching is wrong. What I'm watching is wrong in this moment. We
Well,
will
and
now
history
add,
repeated just had a few weeks ago. We just had a white woman murdered by ICE, and the media spun it, the right-wing media spun it to say her car was going into him, and I just wanna point out, if ICE weren't in Minneapolis right now, none of this would be happening. Think of all the horrible things that have happened since ICE showed up. Minneapolis government didn't want them, didn't need them. They're causing violence. In like, to act like what we do, are we really gonna believe Minneapolis is safer from having ICE terrorize their city? I mean, I just don't see how much longer the government can kind of gaslight us, the national
and,
government, and not supposed
and
to.
let me say, as you're reading the news, the counter to that is um, twofold that you're seeing. The counter to that is there are criminals in Minneapolis and they need to be um, removed. Right? And so ICE is there, and that's why they're there. And everybody's getting in the way. I'm telling you,
Well,
this is split side.
it,
And
it,
everybody's getting in the way. And the people that are
right,
getting in the way are being stoked by Governor Walz, by the mayor, whose name is escaping me, of Minneapolis, and being stoked to do all these things and have this resistance. And therefore, it's a political manufacturing that is bringing the temperature up, not ICE bringing the temperature up. I want to say something before you say something about that. It's the biggest thing that I realized before even seeing this. Last night, I was thinking this and sitting up awake, is that ICE has tried to make themselves a victim right now. They
yes,
are the government. The government is not the victim. It is
no,
never the victim. They have the power. And all this victim talk of the government saying, "Oh, woe is me. The people are against me." Well, the people are against you for a reason, and they're talking and they're expressing themselves through protest, etc. And that needs to be listened to by the government. That's why we have a constitution. That is the First Amendment. The Fifth Amendment makes us not be able to be killed and arrested. And in this case, the Second Amendment comes into play too, because we were going to talk about that he had a gun on him. And so, these rights that we have are the government's to uphold. And who needs to turn down the temperature right now? It's the government is the responsible party. They're the ones with the power. Stop playing victim. So I'll
right.
let you all go. Yeah.
But I didn't know whether you didn't play Chrissy Gnome's thing yet.
No,
You said, and I
I think
watched it,
that's
and
the right next. Go ahead.
if you wouldn't have sent it to me and asked me to, because, and it, Chrissy Nome is what did you say she was? Our national security
Well,
advisor?
Secretary of Homeland
Homeland
Security.
Secretary of Homeland Security. Okay. So she gives a statement on what happened, and that's what you just said, Tim. You said the government is acting like the victim, and the, you know, poor them. That's what Christy Nome's statement was, and she placed a lot of blame on the Democrat governor and mayor. And she said talking points that we're getting on our comments right now. Republican states aren't having this happen. And so, yeah, I think we should play that, because that really goes into the spin of this horrible, violent situation. And it's shocking coming from big top people in our government.
Yeah. And I think that before we get into the red states not having this happen, this isn't happening in Indiana right now. And I mean, the ICE presence isn't here, right? Isn't
It's
here.
here.
And
Look, it's here.
so
this.
isn't here in the same way, for sure.
Right.
And so, and India and Minnesota feels like a far off land where this craziness is happening, right? And so when you have Kristi Noem get up here, and the only thing you're seeing on the right word media is you don't even see the shooting, you just see protests for the most part, and then Kristi Noem and other leaders with the rhetoric. That's what we're dealing with. So I'll play it unless Chad, you wanted to say something. I think I cut you off.
Oh, it just strikes me like the government makes some of the same arguments, and I need to state here that I'm not a historian or an expert on history, but it just strikes me that the U.S. government is making some of the same arguments that you might have heard from the British Army during the Revolutionary times when they were trying to put down a rebellion from these rowdy colonists who wouldn't stand for the type of oppression that they were experiencing at the hands of the king. It feels like the roles have reversed here in a very real way.
And the headlines that you're seeing on Fox and others are, man gets shot, was carrying a gun, and 2 magazines, etc. And it's not. And we just watched the video together, right? That person wasn't. You'll see Kristi right now talk about him being a violent, agitator who was coming out, and there was none of that, right? The guy was picking someone up. He got pushed, someone else got pushed. He started getting pushed from the back, right? He wasn't even at his front to him, got sprayed, got pulled off and thrown down with 7 people on top of him. This is what you are about to hear is not what happened, and it's lies. And we used to not be able to say lies when you heard your government speak to you. You're supposed to be more respectful, but this is lies. And then she goes into the blaming it on the Democrats piece. And a lot of the stuff that she says about Democrats here is true. It's just not related. It just doesn't excuse anything.
Also,
right?
Well, we're going to play it in a second. Imagine you're watching this and you haven't been very politically active. You don't know a whole lot about what's going on, and you just trust that this is a trusted person because they've got a big government title and they're speaking very authoritarian, like they have authority and you should believe them and you should go along. Just imagine, because a lot of people that are watching this are at that moment. They're not like us that are, paying deeply attention. We've been trying to help Indiana and help national politics for years,
Right.
It is working.
Conducting targeted operations in Central Time, the Department of Homeland Security law enforcement officials and officers were conducting targeted operations in Minneapolis against an illegal alien whose criminal history included domestic assault with intentionally inflicting bodily harm, disorderly conduct, and driving without a valid license.
I'm just going to stop there. She's talking, I think, about, after doing some research, about the reason why ICE was there, that they were trying to get some criminal. And so she starts with that was what the operation is, making it seem like, what's his name? Preddy? I know we're going to know it soon, but it's
Alex.
Is the person who's Alex Preddy is the person who's the violent criminal. He's not. He's a bystander there, recording.
With a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life.
The ICE agents didn't know that he had a gun until after he was on the ground. If you're listening to the video, you can hear them say he has a gun after he's on the ground for a while. But again, Kristi Noem makes it feel and seem like that what happened was that he had a gun and he was approaching the officers, right? And if you've never seen the video and you're not getting served this video, maybe that's what you're thinking. But we know he didn't. It wasn't that. He had a camera in his hand. Very obviously, not a camera, but a phone.
Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics were on the scene immediately and attempted to deliver medical aid to the subject, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 magazines with ammunition in them that held dozens of rounds.
Yeah.
The fact that she describes the officer's actions as firing defensive shots is preposterous, in my view, from what I've seen in that video.
Yeah, it's a really hard thing to say. And if you want to say that, in normal times, you would never say that. You would never get up in front of the nation and address and say that. You would say, we are going to investigate this and see. If you didn't want to make a commitment as an official in the past, you would say, we're going to investigate this before coming out. But instead, making a posturing statement like that in order to rally people behind it is what's happening here. It's purely political.
It feels very much to me as though this government and this description of the incident seeks to avoid all forms of accountability, for any form of accountability for what happened today.
And this is the victim, right? This is I am the victim. I'm the government and I'm the victim. We're the victim here. You're the government. You're the ones with power. You're the ones with responsible and your hand on the dial that can turn up and down the temperature.
No ID. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement. About hundreds
I mean, like where?
completely baseless. Like, there's no basis. I can't imagine any basis for that claim.
No. Like, it's just so. Where do you get that as the leader of this department and put that out into the nation in those words? It is so irresponsible, and it is simply to have a political posture to defend the administration and the way that they've set this whole division up. And yes, Democrats are being divisive as well in this situation on other things as well. And I know that my Republican colleagues and friends will tell me, "Oh, I need to make sure that I say that." Okay, that is in no way excusing Kristi Noem's behavior right now. So.
Showed up at the scene. They began to obstruct and to assault law enforcement officers. We saw objects being thrown at them, including ice and other objects, and a rampant assault began, and even an HSI officer agent's finger was bitten off. Crowd control measures were deployed to bring safety to the public and to law enforcement at the scene. And once again, I want to remind everybody that this situation and this tragedy did not have to happen. Our law enforcement are doing everything that they can to protect the public. We're praying for this deceased loved one's family and friends, but we also recognize that the Minnesota governor and the Minneapolis mayor need to take a long, hard look in the mirror. They need to evaluate their rhetoric, their conversations, and their encouragement of such violence against our citizens and our law enforcement officers. I'll remind you that Governor Walz today in his press conference said that our officers were not even law enforcement, which is a lie. He's called them the Gestapo. He's encouraged residents and citizens and violent rioters to resist. He's doxed their identities, putting themselves and their families' lives in jeopardy. He's refused to turn over murderers to federal law enforcement officers. He's protected illegal criminals and protected them from being brought to justice, and even overseen a historic, unprecedented theft of American taxpayer dollars. Tens of billions of dollars were stolen under his watch, and he allowed it to happen, and in some instances may have even facilitated it. In other cities and states across the country, we don't see this happen. Local, state, and officials work with us to make sure that we're making their streets safer. I'll point to the city of Memphis, which is where there is a Democrat mayor in place. He worked with us and our federal law enforcement officers, and we saw murder rates drop by 50% because of that partnership. We've seen historic lows in the criminal acts that have happened in that city. We've had the same amount of law enforcement officers there, but a very different result because of the leadership in place. Last week, ICE did over 2,000 different operations, and we saw people be brought to justice and the American people made safer because of that work. We don't have this problem in Texas or in Florida because those individuals in those states work with us and they make sure that they keep peace and calm while they bring criminals to justice. In Minneapolis, Governor Walz and Mayor Frey, they instead choose violence. They instead choose to encourage the destruction of their city and the crime against their people. It appears that they want this lawlessness to continue. It appears that they want chaos to distract from the theft and the fraud and the corruption of their city. I'll remind you that this city has been corrupt for years with what we've seen with people that have been stealing taxpayer money, all under the leadership of Governor Walz and Mayor Frey. I'm asking for all the authorities in Minneapolis and the leaders to work with us. And there are two things that we have repeatedly asked the governor and the mayor to do. Number one, all we want them to do is that when they are going to release a dangerous criminal from their jails, turn them over to us so we can get them out of this country as soon as possible. Since we have been back in the White House with President Trump's leadership, they have released over 490 criminals onto their streets rather than allow us to get them out of the country to keep families safe. The second thing that we have asked the governor and the mayor to do is to help us keep people safe. Just give us backup on the streets while we do our targeted operations to get illegal criminals out of our country. And then we wouldn't have to be there facing these types of situations that we face with violent rioters who are impacting and attacking our law enforcement officers. That's all. Those are the two requests that we've asked of them. We've asked them to help us do that so that we can continue to see success in Minneapolis like we see in so many other cities and communities across the country.
So many lies, such propaganda. It's really hard to listen to that. It's really hard. Gaslighting, blaming the victim, blaming the mayor, blaming the governor, blaming the immigrants. And it's ICE. ICE was the one that did this murder. And they never once even just like state accurately what happened. Not one time did she say what actually happened.
So I think it may be worth, and pardon me for attempting to correct you, but I think it was more specifically the Customs and Border Patrol agents that were involved in this particular incident. And it may be useful to make that distinction, although ICE has become kind of a catch-all term for federal law enforcement and migration. But I'm given to understand that there are several pockets of agents that have a role to play here. And
Border Patrol. Why is Border Patrol in Minneapolis?
I can't speak to that. I don't know.
I don't understand.
It's the operation that's happening in Minneapolis is shared by a number of agencies across Homeland Security and immigration enforcement. So immigration and customs enforcement. Yeah, there's the thing about this, if I want to say, is there's some truths weave through it, right? And just because you talk about some truths in there doesn't mean it's the reason why the shooting happened, or that it's an excuse for why this shooting happened, or that that it's a direct result for why the shooting happened, or that is again, it's in that Governor Walz, because there is problems with possible fraud or missing money or mismanagement, depending on what happens through that situation. I don't know what that has to do with man being shot in the street today.
Yes, the responsible thing to have done for Secretary Noem would have been to stay strictly focused on the issues. There was no need to mention, but if she wants to make the point about the differing levels of cooperation in Republican-led states versus Democratic-led states, there's a point to be made there, but not in this context.
Right, there is a point to be made there. I got called by a Republican friend for being misleading on some of the things I had on my congressional channel, that they were half truths, and it was great feedback and called on the Facebook, and I answered it saying, "Oh, actually, yes, you're right on this. This other thing happened as well. It's not an all or nothing situation." So that happens, but
But to
there
the,
are other
and to
things, but it
say, and
doesn't excuse the behavior.
right, and for me to say that there is a point to be made there does not mean that I sympathize with that point. Again, I recently began watching a documentary on the U.S. Revolutionary War against Britain, and so that's been on my mind a lot lately. And in a similar way, the British Crown could have said, "We're not getting resistance from these colonies who tend to agree with us. If it's just the ones that disagree with us that we're having problems with." Well, that's the nature of protest. That's the nature of petitioning your government for redress.
So I
Well, I mean,
wonder if we can. Oh, go ahead, Sarah, please.
that we're having government sanctioned violence and there's no accountability. It's just spin immediately. Like I mean, this happened, this amount of
This
spin.
morning, 9 o'clock.
Isn't that a massive problem and not normal in a democracy? I mean, I know we always get a little bit of it, but this amount when it's documented, we have video. I mean, so many people are scared. Whether you're on the right or the left, you're scared right now if you're paying attention. You see the division and you're worried about it. And both sides seem scary and extreme. And I get Democrats saying, "Sarah, what are you talking about? Our side seems scary. Our side seems scary. If you think protests are scary, if you're seeing images of yesterday's protests in like New York City and in Minneapolis out in the freezing cold, there's thousands of people. If you are not fully understanding why they're doing it and you think some of those people are scary, you look at that and get scared. It is hard to understand, but I get it. I,
Let's show
I
some. Show some of
like,
what that looks like.
yeah.
Of what people are seeing that are on rightward leading media, where they're not seeing the video, literally not being served the video of what happened, like we were in the beginning of this. And instead, you get things like this.
Just fired tear gas again. They threw metal canisters and fired them from rifles as well. They scattered the crowd of about 600 people back again. And it's just an eerie scene in a U.S. city. See the smoke rising, the American flag, and Americans battling each other. That's another canister coming our way. Right here, and you can see these protesters just running right back at the city police. Flash gangs, tear gas, a crowd of thousands being moved back once again. They're getting used to this. I think they're retreating left, and they're standing their ground pretty much this time around. So the tear gas they've used has gotten less effective.
Steve, is there an armored vehicle on its side right in front of you? Or is that a dumpster?
There are two SWAT vehicles being used for deployment of Agents 2 big heavy metal armored vehicles. I said they just fired tear.
So what was that? Was that showing
So
protesters?
that was the aftermath afterwards of protesters coming to the scene. And the state police were called out to help control the crowd. And they pulled dumpsters in from the alleyways to block off the roads, is a tactic that riot police have, that I was until probably 2 hours ago. And that's what you're seeing there, kind of blocking the way. And then tear gas and smoke bombs are being thrown and shot toward the protesters, and the protesters are throwing them back, picking them up and throwing them back. And so, again, this looks like complete chaos. It is chaos. But this is in response to a killing. And if you don't show the killing, and instead
But you just show the after.
you're just show the aftermath. You're showing just part of the story. And if the only thing you saw was Christy Nome saying that the man was a hardened criminal who was an illegal alien who was there to kill police, now this is the story that you have and that you went to sleep with tonight. Not
That's
the
what
story of both sides. Yeah.
that the people that are voting for Trump and still supporting him, their news is so different because all of my friends keep saying, well, I can't be friends with these people. I can't be friends if they're thinking this is okay. And we're seeing the real video and we're seeing what actually happened. They're seeing the spin and believing the spin. And I point that out and they're like, well, that's their fault. And I'm like, but the whole point of saving democracy, you all, the whole point to stop this is to get some of these people, bring them in, talk to them, tell them what really happened. Don't scream at them and shame them and guilt them, but actually explain what actually happened and get some of them over on our side so we can stop this. Don't we
Yeah.
all acknowledge that we're scared and that this isn't right, that we shouldn't have this, that Minneapolis shouldn't look like a war zone right now? I mean,
Yeah. Let me say that, I mean, other times there are tons of spin on the media on the left of what's going on and cutting things off, not giving complete truths. See it all the time. We saw it with the young 5-year-old who is now in Texas with his dad in a detention center. We saw that. I saw a bunch of just misleading stuff on CNN of what happened. Because again, for those of you watching, what I do is I look at the entire medium spectrum so that we can have these conversations. Today, with this, we're seeing a ton of misleading information from the right and the left trying to be very down the middle with it, actually. And what I see often is like, when there's big things that happen that are obviously a problem, the side that is most has the biggest gripe or is in the right usually tries to go down the middle because they're using the facts, whereas the other side spins rather than people just trying to give you the facts. Chad, you look like you wanted to say something.
Oh, well, I think you're absolutely right. Facts are important, and the a responsible interpretation of those facts is also important. And I think part of the responsibility of journalists, I'm concerned that that we didn't get to see the whole clip of what the context in which that Christy Nome clip was played, but too often I see news organizations give voice to the principal actors without without fact checking or interpreting and putting what they say in larger context.
Yeah. One news source that I'd encourage people to look at is The Hill. It's pure political news, but it is pretty down the center. At times, I see them go to the left, and sometimes I see them go to the right a little bit, but it's pretty down the center. And when you look at all of the websites that kind of grade what's on the right, what's on the left, it's the one that consistently gets down the center. So take a look at that. I can share something from The Hill. Excuse me, as I right now, that's kind of the opposite of what Christy Nome was saying, or almost the opposite about Walz around what is Walz saying? What is the rhetoric? What is he out there? Is he stoking people to fight
Tim Walz is the
ICE?
governor of Minnesota, and he also ran for vice president with Kamala Harris. So
Yeah,
they
right.
since Trump likes to go after his, enemies, I would say this would be a state he probably enjoys going after.
Yeah, and so
Walz on
one
federal
of the things. Yeah, one of the things that happened was like I kept hearing this on Fox and other places around Tim Walz is off the hook. He's lost his rocker and he's saying all this crazy stuff. And I was like, oh, what is he actually saying? And so I went to the Hill for that. And so Walz calls on federal agents to leave state after a deadly second shooting, and this is pretty fair. So Governor Tim Walz demanded federal officers vacate the state after agents shot and killed a second person. Donald Trump, quote, Donald Trump, I call on you once again, remove this force from Minnesota. They are sowing chaos and violence. We've seen deadly violence from federal agents again and again and again and again. Walz did speak with Trump's chief of staff twice this morning and had conversations. The first request was to get her people out of there, to get these federal agents out of there, Walz said. They were going to cause more chaos. And the second call is in no uncertain terms that we will investigate this. We will not be stonewalled. That federal agencies cannot be trusted to lead this investigation. The state will handle it. So go into more of this. Thank God we have the video, because according to DHS, these 7 heroic guys took on an onslaught of a battalion against them. It's nonsense, people. It's nonsense and it's lies. Their presence is terrorizing our communities, violating rights, and taking lives with zero accountability. Was from Representative Omar, was that quote. But so Amy Klobuchar, the senator, who is known as a relatively moderate senator and Democrat, also weighed in, saying the world is watching federal officers' actions in the state, saying get ICE out of Minnesota now. And Republicans in Congress, stop your silence and stop being complicit. And then Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller responded to Klobuchar's post, accusing the senator of defending a domestic terrorist who tried to assassinate federal law enforcement. You and the state's entire Democratic leadership team have been flaming the flames of insurrection for the singular purpose of stopping the deportation of illegals who invaded the country.
The rhetoric is so shocking. Not talking about human beings. The name calling is so to me. The riots, all of this stuff would not be happening right now if these federal agents were not in Minneapolis. It's so important to realize that, because they're doing so much victim blaming. I would like to touch on, and I don't know how much you followed this, Tim, but I was kind of following it. I was interested in it. What happened after the first killing? The woman, Renee Goodman, to now. It was sort of amazing. I want to point out, this is one of my favorite authors. Okay, this is one of my favorite authors. It's Abby Jamez. I don't know how to say her last name. And I follow her on TikTok, and she lives in Minneapolis, and all of her books take place in Minneapolis. And she has a real bakery called Nadia Cakes there. And she does a lot of stories because she's in the city and she's trying to help the immigrants not get taken by ICE. And there was this massive amount of organizing happening, a bunch of money raised, and there were a bunch of organizers of like people that were safe, that wouldn't get taken by these federal agents, and they would go to the grocery and they would buy needed items, go to the store and get medicine and go, and then they would give them to the homes that had people of brown skin and try to keep them in their homes. And it was so beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. Like the thousands and thousands of regular people in Minnesota and Minneapolis doing this to try to protect them. And now they're saying, look at the riots. And it's like, no, this was caused because they murdered another person. It's like, stop gaslighting and act like it's the American people that are the problem. No, you're the problem. And I just
One of the things that
Go ahead, Chad.
yeah, thanks. one of the things that I noticed in the aftermath of the killing of Renee Good was that much of the national conversation was really focused on the very specific positioning of the agents and the speed of the vehicle and the angle of the wheels on her car and so many of the details about that particular um, event, that instance, that any larger discussion about what you're trying to raise here about the role of the way the law enforcement conduct themselves when they're seeking to enforce the laws. It's that's the broader conversation we have to have. I know that there were people, myself included, who felt convinced that if ICE continued and other federal agents continued their practices as they were doing, that more people would be hurt. And I'm just saddened that has come so soon. But that's the broader conversation we really need to be having. There are ways to conduct immigration enforcement that are that do not violate the Constitution as brazenly as these agencies are doing today.
We should talk about the fact that he was armed.
I think that's a very interesting point. I have a couple of thoughts after you to share on that when you're finished.
Sure, just as maybe trying to lay out some of the facts from, again, scanning the news here. The man was armed, had a 9mm, I believe, and was holstered, was licensed and legally armed and carrying, and was there at the protest. The gun was holstered. It wasn't visible at first, and he never had it in his hands the entire time, the entire
Not one
scuffle, ever in his hands. When he was down on his knees with seven, I believe seven, may have been six people six in law enforcement on top of him. It appears that one of the law enforcement reach in to grab his gun when they see it, and they yell, "He's got a gun." And about a second later, I heard 10 shots fired about 2 seconds later after that. So again, Christy Nome and Pam Bondi both said he was someone holding a gun and carrying a gun, and the law enforcement didn't know that until he was on his knees, pepper spray in his eyes, hands being and arms being restrained, being hit on the neck by law enforcement, again on his knees with the gun behind him. This is the first time they saw the gun. There's no way he touched it. That just didn't happen. Very much didn't happen. And you're not even seeing even the really far right blogs that I read even say anything about that and say that he was, holding the gun or anything. So no one's really disputing that at this point. The only person that said that is our officials. And so that's the situation. I'm not sure why he was shot, like what the incident was, that it was accidental at first, or was it they said he has a gun, or was it, who knows? I can't, I have no facts there.
And I don't,
but that's what we have.
I mean, I'm predicting, I don't know. Are we going to get a fair trial? I mean, it's like the state government and the city government is trying to fight the national government to get a fair trial because the national
investigation, we'll say investigation. Yeah.
Already said a bunch of fake things. So, I mean, I just would like the far to the right to just acknowledge there's some issues. Just acknowledge. You don't have to, there's so much hatred. There's so much blame. There's so much on the other side, like like this person deserved to die. And I'm like, could we just pause here, everybody? These are human beings, these are Americans, if that matters more. um I cannot.
Oh.
It's to everybody, because my friends are having mental health problem days today. This was too much for them and they're struggling, and it's been a hard day for me as well. I, I just, where do we go from here when we have such division and such hatred for human beings? Because if we just hate them if they vote differently than us.
Yeah, can I go back in the conversation a little bit and just to talk about the gun and the presence of the gun?
Sure.
Like, I have members of my family and extended family who have concealed carry permits and carry guns with them as they're going about their business in public, whether they're intending to go to observe law enforcement action or just go into the grocery store. And I think it was easier for some of our right-leaning friends to distance themselves emotionally from Renee Good. But it will be harder, I think, or I hope, for them to distance themselves from this incident today. The presence of the gun, that's just a very interesting and fraught, frankly, element in this particular instance, and I hope
It
that it
doesn't
gives people pause.
I mean, are we going to bring that up, that the right, that's a very big talking point. It's a very big fear thing. They act like Democrats want to take all guns, and Tim and I are like, well, we live in the country, we understand the need. We just would like some common sense gun laws to lessen the violence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to call out the hypocritical nature of that with some comments that Donald Trump said about this. He immediately made sure that people knew that he had a gun and 2 magazines on him, and used that to say, justify this in ways. Whereas I just want to bring us back to remembering Kyle Rittenhouse, who was shot and killed and was walking around with a automatic rifle, and Trump at that time was celebrating the fact that he had a gun.
Nope.
And
I
so,
think you said that he was shot and killed, but in fact, Kyle Rittenhouse shot and killed an individual.
did I say he was
Right.
shot and killed? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
He
And so,
made him out to be
yep.
right.
Yes, I
Yeah.
apologize. And so, my point is, just as there are 2 instances. I'm gonna get called on this stuff all the time. There are other instances of things that Donald Trump said about guns, one way or good or not. But that's what came to my mind when I read Donald Trump trying to say that this guy was bad. Pam Bondi did the same thing. This guy was bad because he had guns on him, and it's a double standard beyond belief.
Well,
And
it
it's not
shows
going to work, right? That doesn't work. Yeah, go ahead.
it doesn't matter what our side does. Our side's always wrong, and it doesn't matter what their side does. Their side's always right, and that's not healthy, and it's not accurate, and it's traumatizing everybody in our country. Like,
What I'm struggling with is Sarah. I think both sides of these issues, and not just this issue of ICE or immigration enforcement, but on most issues, it's my experience that people on both sides will say exactly what you've said. That my side is right, and we're the ones looking at the true facts, and that other side is wrong, and they're looking at fake news. I see that. I hear that from both sides, and so like somehow we need to figure out how to have the really difficult conversations where we can engage someone with whom we disagree and hold space for the fact that we both see things very, very differently, and collaboratively work through the facts and the proper interpretation. Somehow we've got to get
Yeah.
to that point.
Like find ground at the beginning instead of just being like, I'm already mad at you because you think different things than me. Find common ground. Like, I bet we're all concerned about the state of the country right now. And then what else could we agree on? And go there and then just have a discussion without getting angry. You know, I posted some political stuff on my Facebook today, you guys, and caused quite the drama. And one Democrat person got mad at one Republican person for saying something about this murder, I believe. I can't, or might have been something else. And then somebody else got really mad. A Democrat got really mad. And then somebody else, another Democrat or another person came in and spoke calmly. And then the Republican guy's like, well, if you just would have spoken to me calmly, we could have had a conversation about comments that made me mad, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, if we could just not take the emotion out of it. It's so hard to take the emotion out of this right now. Look at what is happening. It's so hard.
Yeah. I'm going to share the screen just to lay on to your point here of it's not fake if it's your news, right? It's fake if it's their news. And New York Post is a very hard right-leaning periodical, and this is what they put on their breaking news.
Can you,
Man,
you want to read it?
do you see it? Man waving gun at feds attempting to arrest illegal criminal in Minneapolis. Shot dead by agent, DHS says, with a picture of the gun. And, in a very odd picture of an odd angle of what's going on here. Alex Preddy is not even in it. So,
You know, I did a show last week with your nephew, Christopher, your nephew, Tim. And in Portugal, he's in Lisbon, and he's been there for a few weeks. And he was there when Renee Good was shot. I got her last name wrong before. And he said it's sort of interesting because everybody follows American news in Portugal, and it's not with a spin. It's just like the facts. And so he was able to get more accurate information about it than like I was in Portugal. And it made him more empathetic. He's a Republican. It made him more empathetic to the situation, and he was not supporting ICE and not supporting this. And we did a show, and he came out more against Trump than I've ever heard him say. And wow, Portugal is good for my Republican friend. It was
You bring up an interesting point, and I think my take on that was maybe not so. Well, I think it's true that outside the United States, with a little bit of distance, it's easier to be dispassionate and more balanced. Yeah, for sure. One of the other things I hope that people can wrestle with is the idea that, and I'm hopeful that members of my own family can take this approach, that who support Trump and many of his policies, and I'm taking the position that it's okay. Like we can have that debate. We can talk about policy differences, and we can talk about what you like about conservatism today or the Republican Party today, and what you don't like. But it's okay to, if you break with Trump on this particular issue, it's okay. That doesn't mean that I have to just automatically accept that Trump is wrong about everything. We can separate these two issues, and I'm hopeful that maybe that we can create some space for that, and not feel like
yeah, just acknowledging, like, you know, tons of problems with the Democrats. A lot of them, and just acknowledging what my problems are with my side is a helpful thing. This is a great time for Republicans to say, you know, I don't support government sanctioned violence. I'm just going to throw that out there. And we just need more people allowing the space of our side doesn't have to be perfect every time about every single thing.
right.
You know, I am getting some feedback from. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry to catch you. I'm getting some feedback from Republicans, a few Republicans right now, making reasonable people who I know. I'm not talking about far right or far left here, who are making a point of not a throw this in your face point, but please address this, which is if local and state officials and law enforcement were working with ICE and we're working with federal agents better and very accepting of them to help catch criminals, wouldn't this kind of situation not be happening? As opposed to other states where they are working well with them. Chrissy Nome brought this up as well in her press conference. How do you think about that? How do you answer that? And again, I think it's a good thing to think through, but it also doesn't excuse what happened right now in any way. And that, I don't think that's what these people are saying, but they're asking to address that point.
And I want to point out, whenever government comes out and says it's perfectly okay to murder their own citizens, that's like Putin's Russia. Like, that's something that happens with an authoritarian rule. That's it. We know unfairness, and America has always not had fairness, especially people that are, what they want for an American. But this is different. This is something I've never. I don't know.
Well, Donald Trump didn't ask for this killing for sure, or the Renee Good, right? He didn't say, let's go out there and kill someone. But he did excuse it. And certainly not great leadership. And
did you see the story?
I'm going to give you a quote. So go ahead.
Okay.
Let me find it while you talk while I'm finding it.
Did you see the story about the woman who is against ICE, who thought she would do an experiment and apply to ICE? Did you all see that story?
Mm-mm.
I remember hearing something about it. Elaborate.
From her, like, I saw her talk about it. And so she applied for ICE, didn't think it would go anywhere. Then she had a 6-minute interview, and then she didn't fill out all the proper paperwork, but she did go and get a drug test. She didn't think she'd pass the drug test because I think pot is legal in her state, and I think she had pot. And but then she checked her email, and she got hired by ICE after a 6-minute interview. Just rushed everything really quickly, and if they would have done any background checks, they would have found it on her social media she was very against them. And so she was like, well, if it was so easy for me to get hired, who are they hiring? And then I told Tim this. My son, my 15-year-old, would be watching YouTube, and he would get clips trying to recruit people to work for ICE. And I know this is one of the talking, or not just ICE, but Border Patrol or whatever. Are these people properly trained to be doing this? Pumped this up. We've given a lot of money. We've expanded this group. We've hired, the country has hired however many thousands of new people. It appears that they're not with proper training. I just want to point that out, that it's a problem. And like, cops are coming out, sheriff's departments are coming out and saying this is a problem. It's not like it's just Democrats calling this out now.
It's my understanding that police officers go through months of training before they wear the badge and walk a beat. I'm not sure that that's happening in these cases. I don't know, but it doesn't feel like they're being well trained.
Yeah, I feel like we should make sure we have facts on that, and clear and understanding exactly what they are doing for training. And I just want to say on this one, this is for Renee Good in response to that, not in response to Alex Preddy. But he was talking about mistakes. This press conference had a lot of things, and again, this is NBC News, so they're going to focus on this part of it. But Trump saying ICE will sometimes make mistakes, and ICE is going to be too rough with somebody sometimes. It's just something that happens. And so, Sarah, you were talking about, like, our leaders. Your leaders can't excuse the killing of citizens. That's not what our leaders. That's not what an American leader does. That's not what a great American leader does. That's for sure. Right? They accept that the system that they're governing over and everything that happened in that country is their responsibility. And the system that they're governing over said there was a mistake. A mistake. There was more than that. There was a killing. There was something that happened that is our responsibility to fix. Right? And so just not seeing that level of responsibility and accountability and saying, yeah, we're going to fix this. Instead, the reaction is, let's turn up the temperature. Let's make the federal agents, go and do and be encouraged to continue an operation that's obviously not working well. The operation, even if you're catching criminals, is also hurting citizens. So what you're doing isn't working.
But
Stop
they
it.
don't acknowledge it. They're not acknowledging it. They're just like, keep going, and we'll just keep lying about it.
So stop, we just need a leader and leaders on both sides who will accept what's going on is their responsibility and not say it's the other side's fault.
Right.
It's your responsibility as the elected leaders to figure out a way out of this mess. We are in a mess right now of division that's just getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And we're going to see more and more killings because of this. And so our leaders need to figure out a way to take responsibility for being elected and move forward with some real solutions. So
I'm so like, think about it though, Tim. Imagine that you're the mayor or the governor here, and the national government is lying. They're saying some true things, but they're throwing spin and lies, and they're acting like it's their fault. So even if they did say like, okay, we're not 100% saying nothing's our fault. We understand that we're divided. Could we come in? Could we have some meetings, and could we talk about lessening the violence? Could we work with them? I would understand their hesitancy because it doesn't seem like the national government's being truthful. So, like, what would you do? What would you do, Tim, if you were the governor or the mayor? Because I'm with you. Like, we'll be willing to talk to people. We'll talk to people to try to make peace. Peace is worth it to try, even when it's really hard. What do we do? What do we do on the Democrat side to lessen the violence here?
yeah. So Walz did put out the the National Guard from the state today to help with protesting. That's definitely something. I've walked in protests before where the police are there, um, state police, uh, city police are there, literally walking with you, talking to you, saying, "Okay, what do you need to do next? We're going to go that direction. We're going to make sure that we're stop traffic for it. That everything's going to be okay. We'll go in front." Like there's cooperation there that happens, and I think that's good. That's really good law enforcement because what you're doing is trying to tone down what's happening, right? And let people still have their First Amendment rights. I think that's a very different way of acting than what we're seeing from the federal agents right now, which is people pushing one another, tackling people, arresting people that are citizens that have nothing to do with this stuff because they are protesting or they're yelling and getting arrested or detained, I should say, detained and then released. And fear stoking. That is not good law enforcement, right? That's fighting your own people. And if you say that, oh, it's because the protesters are fighting them, again, you're victim blaming. You're pretending that you're the victim as the government. No, we've seen good government work for hundreds of years to be able to allow Americans to protest. right? And so the leaders are in charge of that. So I think Walz did a good thing by saying getting the National Guard out and helping with people protesting in downtown Minneapolis right now.
So the
Earlier
National
today,
Guard's going to be like trying to support the American citizens, like the
they're
people.
going to be a wall in between what's going on with ICE and what's going right, and keep that wall up
I
so
bet the
that you can
National Guard,
separate people.
the National Guard people that signed up for the National Guard, I'm going to assume they didn't see this one coming. I didn't see this coming when Trump won his second term. I didn't know this was going to happen. And I think there's so much hate and rage and anger on the left for people that voted for Trump. I'm guessing most people that voted for Trump did not see this coming either. Like, we have to acknowledge that, Trump was telling them he was going to take care of them, and he was going to do, he was going to bring prices down, and he was going to take care of all of the things we're scared about, not to worry. And he didn't say, and I'm going to, he didn't say this was going to happen. He didn't say, and guess what? Scary stuff going to happen. So we have to acknowledge that most people don't want this.
I agree, and that's why I really want to be deliberate about making space for my conservative friends to speak out against some of these abuses of power without feeling like they need to concede that everything that conservatism and Republican Party stands for today is wrong.
Yep.
I think we both need to be a little more balanced on both sides of the aisle in that respect, where we can responsibly call out excesses on both sides.
Yeah. I know
So
I could
there's
do a better job at it. It's just hard for me. The humanness of it, I really struggle when people don't care that someone died. That's really hard for me. And I want to hold space and hear the other views and acknowledge that they're getting different news, but that's just hard. I just feel like we should care.
Let's
We should just care
let's
about
hold
humans.
space for someone. This is a person who died, right? And there's a viral video going around of him from his past at the VA. He was a VA nurse, an ICU nurse, and I haven't seen it yet, but it's blowing up everywhere on all my feeds and whatnot. So we're gonna watch it together for the first time.
Terrence Lee Randolph, March 30th, 1947, December 10th, 2024. Today we remember that freedom is not free. We have to work at it, nurture it, protect it, and even sacrifice for it. May we never forget and always remember our brothers and sisters who have served so that we may enjoy the gift of freedom. So in this moment, we remember and give thanks for their dedication and selfless service to our nation in the cause of our freedom. In this solemn hour, we render them our honor and our gratitude.
So that was Alex saying something to someone that had passed away that was a veteran. Is that what we watched?
Yeah, he's the ICU nurse in the VA, and when people pass away in the VA, you do a immediate ceremony for them, and that's him going through that process for that.
It's hard for me not to cry right now. It's like this person just died. It's so sad. I think that's what's missing.
Real person.
Don't you think, Tim, that's what's missing? They're trying to make this not a real person. They're like, don't look at the real person. Hear our spin about the nasty, scary, terrible man he was. Don't look at the fact that he actually was a decent human being. That's the part that's really hard for me.
Yeah. Real person.
That's precisely why our constitutional protections are so important. That's why they are put in place for everyone, regardless of. My conservative friends point out that our Declaration of Independence mentions God often and our Creator, and the Declaration makes the point that these certain unalienable rights with which we're endowed come to us from our Creator, and not from the Constitution or not from the government, but they're natural human rights, and and they can't be limited as such just to people who are citizens of this country. But if we really believe in those principles, we have to apply them to everyone.
Right. I just want to call, this is the time. This is the time, everybody, to kind of just collectively say this is wrong. To say, like,
Yeah.
you know what? You don't have to say how you vote, but you can. You can say, you know what? I'm a Republican and I'm just going to come out and say this is wrong. Because the more of us that do that, and they do it in an empathetic way, in a kind way, it shows the majority of us are against this. And that is what I know is true.
Yeah.
That is what I want my friends
It
to
has
hear.
to be true, right?
That is
It
true.
has to
Most
be.
people are against this.
And so, yeah, this is the time to come together. This is a moment to come together. Can this be the moment we can come together and rise above a lot of this division and put it aside? Can this be it? Can this be that moment? And we're going to need to look to our leaders to make sure it's that moment. We're going to need to look to everyday citizens. We're going to need to look to people like us who are talking heads on this screen right now. We're going to need to look to the people like you and me, Sarah, who are running for office, to be responsible people and not be divisive when we are out there on our stump speeches, and talk about what are the things we can do when we are governing to bring people together. What are we going to do to not make people,
And it's hard because on
follow
our
us in evil?
side, Tim, they push us to be extreme. Our side is like, you need to call this out. You need to say this and this. And you have to be like, I agree with you, but we have to be uniting and welcoming and loving. And I don't want to put more panic and more trauma out there. I want to say, listen, most of us know this is wrong and are scared. And it's like a everyday mental health battle over here running for office as a Democrat in Indiana. I'm telling you, it really is.
I think the farther you get to either side, and in the extremes of either side, the more black and white these issues appear. And I think that good evidence that you're having the right conversation is when you're having a conversation where everyone has to wrestle with some difficult realities. That's when you know that it's a productive conversation.
Yeah.
This isn't easy. This isn't going to be an easy fix. We can't snap our fingers and make things better. And I know that's what people want. They want it better tomorrow. And this is going to be a collective work together, unity building, elect better leaders, pay attention at the local, state, national level, hold elected leaders accountable. This is a lot of work. And I know we just want an easy solution, you know?
And we've been saying it, Sarah. I mean, it's about electing people who are willing to bring people together, not electing dividers. And that goes for either side of the aisle.
Both sides. Yeah.
If you're voting for a divider, you're voting to continue to divide. And I understand that when you vote for a divider, many people are saying, okay, we're trying to counterbalance what's happening on the other dividers. But that's not working right now. People are dying. And so we need to find ways to come together, not to separate. And these moments are opportunities for our country. A horrible thing happened to an individual, a person we just saw worked in the veterans hospital and did good things. This person died. Is a horrible thing. It can also be something that we can rise out of ashes together. And that means working together regardless of party, and more working together as neighbors to say, how can we move forward in a way where we're actually respecting one another?
At Do Something Southern Indiana, we're holding a series of workshops that we call Conversations That Matter, where our goal is to do just that. And frankly, we need a more balance in those. We've had 3 sessions so far, and they've been productive and really enjoyable and uplifting, edifying conversations. But we do need more conservative, right-leaning voices in those rooms to make the experience more meaningful for everyone. The goal of these sessions is to get out of the talking at each other frame and get into the listening to each other frame, where real effective constructive dialogue happens.
I want to
Yeah, no.
point out this one comment real fast before we
Sure.
leave. She says, I agree with you, or he or she says, but there also has to be accountability for those that voted for this crap. I want to push back on that. That's how a lot of
Yeah.
people think. We should make these people pay that did this to us. Let's point out that wise woman, Suzanne Collins, who wrote the Hunger Games books, okay? The last Hunger Games book, the third one, when they finally taken down the bad government that caused the Hunger Games, that caused kids killing kids for entertainment to keep the peace, okay? The bad government burns, the good government's coming over. The leader of the good government says, now it's time to make them pay. We're going to make the rich people that caused this, we're going to make their kids do a Hunger Games. That's okay. And Katniss, the main character, she shoots and kills that woman at the end of the third book. Says, we will not do that. Because that's not the answer. More violence, more revenge on the people that hurt us is not how we get out of this, you all. I know it's not fair, but shocker, life's not fair. We gotta unite. We gotta love. I'm not saying people that do crime should go on, I'm not saying that. I'm saying we gotta unite and let it go. We gotta let it go, or we're going to end up causing more violence, more pain, more division. And read the Hunger Games if you don't believe me, or watch the movies. You get the same point there.
Can I just offer an invitation to your viewers that Do Something Southern Indiana has a public Facebook page and a private Facebook group. And we recognize that at this particular time, what many people are seeking is just a strengthening of community and a rebuilding of connection. And we're going to be offering some very specific daily suggestions on both of those platforms for how to do just that. Offering
the Do Something group is a great group.
Something to take action in a specific way to build community and build connections. Because
do you join it? Do you go to Facebook?
So you can go to Facebook and search for our Facebook group, Do Something Southern Indiana.
And then you have a website?
You can ask to join our private group. We also do have a website, DoSomethingSoin.com. And you can sign up for our Conversations That Matter workshops there, as well as participate in some of the other actions that we're involved in.
That's a really good group. It's a good group of people. It's a group of people that don't yell. They listen and think and have those conversations. So if you're looking for a loving community, Do Something Southern Indiana is great. If you're not in Southern Indiana, I recommend Indivisible. Indivisible has like thousands and thousands of chapters across the country, and there's different ones, and you can even start one. We know Patty started one. Our friend Patty helped start one here. Indivisible is also a great group. So there's the Do Something website. Good job, Tim. Look at this. And but anyway, look up Indivisible. If you're wanting to unite, if you're wanting to get with a community and fight for good instead of just being the noise of division and hate, Do Something Southern Indiana. Indivisible is what I would recommend for you guys.
And we genuinely need and welcome people from across the political spectrum who want to build community and strengthen our country.
I want to invite people in chat. I would love to invite you and know what you're doing February 18th, but we have a bipartisan celebration for the campaign for Tim Peck for Congress.
Yeah, Chad, you should come. We can meet you in
second
person.
Annual one.
I would love to meet this.
So February 18th, is it at 6? What time is it?
6 o'clock. Yep.
And it's at the Harrison County Arts in Corden. Yeah, this will be your second time. I feel like that was the first time I met you, or the second time I met you, Tim. This is the second time I met you. It was there 2 years ago.
And so what happens is you come in, Chad, and you get handed a little card that has some questions on it, starter questions around politics. and then
Yeah.
you go find someone that you don't know, and talk to them about it. And it's a bipartisan event. It's thrown by supporters who are both Republican and Democrat of our campaign, and libertarian as well, actually. And the there were about 100 people there, about 25, 30 Republicans last time. You expect more this time. And yeah, especially Republicans, you are very invited to this. This is a place where you can safely express how you feel to other people. So
I
who are
feel like
willing to
this is
listen.
more needed than the last time we had this event. The last time you had this event, it was kind of shocking. Ooh, Tim Peck is inviting Republicans. Now it's not shocking because you've been doing this for a while. And I feel like it's definitely needed more. Also just invite everybody to Harrison County Democrat Gala we're having, because I'm on the committee that's doing that. That's February 28th. You can go to Harrison County Dems Facebook group and see the link and buy tickets if you want. We're going to have Bo By and Blythe Potter there. They're running for Secretary of State, and a bunch of local candidates. And its theme is Better Together, Tim. So the theme of the Democrat Gala is, you don't have to be a big Democrat to come to this. You just want, if you want to make the local community better, we would like you to come. So we are also doing that. And I'm really proud of the leadership team for doing that. I think that really says something, to be a Democrat county party and to be like, we're doing better together. I like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great.
It's been a long night.
Chad.
I'm gonna go to bed. I'm way past my bedtime, you guys.
Chad, let's give Chad the final word. We always get the final word here. What's on your mind right now? Maybe we can recap how we're feeling.
I think what's on my mind is really on what's on my heart. I'm just so sad that as a country we're experiencing this. I know it's hard. It's hard on both sides. It's hard to feel misunderstood, regardless of what your beliefs are. And I deeply hope that we can find ways to moderate and unify while still being true to and bringing the best of our diverse perspectives to the difficult problems that our communities and our state and our nation face. We we really do need to figure out how to come together and recognize the good on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. Please, if you've been watching this, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Project Next Movement. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and you can also join our Substack. You can get emails of our episodes if you just go to projectnextindiana.com. So we have lots of ways, and we're a podcast if you want to listen. That might be easier while you do all your busy chores. We're on Apple and Spotify. So please just follow us. And also, if you could share this with a friend, we're really trying to unite and stop the hate, fear, and division destroying the country. And we could use your help in growing, because there's a lot of media, there's a lot of people competing for eyeballs. So appreciate that if you help us out. Oh, and also if you're on Facebook, invite your friends to follow Project Next. That helps us so much. We're almost at 4,000 subscribers or follows on Facebook. We're very close. So if you want to help with that, just invite your friends. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree. My heart hurts. I'm sad. It's traumatic. I'm trying not to cry. It's like laugh or cry at this point. Just love to everybody. Big hugs. I know it's scary. Yeah.
My last word is that what has made America great, what has made America move forward, what's made us be better than we were a moment ago, has always been tension.
That's a good point.
Has always been people with different ideas in tension, trying to figure it out and how we're going to move forward. And that's very different than division that we're seeing right now. And right now we're seeing people not come together and be tense with one another, but say, let's separate. Let's not even commingle ideas in any way. Let's not have conversations. We need to get back to that tension, which is around conversations, which is uncomfortable, to be in there and live in that uncomfortable space so that we can move forward and get to a better place. And so just like Chad is inviting you to do, just like Sarah is inviting you to do, just like I'm inviting you to do, please start talking. It's the hardest thing you can possibly do right now in this environment is to talk to someone who disagrees with you. But it's the only way our country moves forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Amen.
you can check our previous episodes because we talk about this. I did an episode with you, Chad, where we talked about having hard conversations. So just
Yeah.
go back. It was a couple months ago, I think. Yeah. All right. Everybody get some sleep. Have your good night and love.
Stay warm.
Stay warm. We're having a snowstorm here.
Help your neighbors. Ask what they need. And
Yeah, check on your neighbors, make sure they're okay. It's an interesting time. Yeah. I want to talk about warming stations and shelters because it's a big need down here. So I want to do that sometime. All right. Bye, everybody. Love you guys.
thank
Take care.
you.
Be
Good night.
safe.
Thanks, everybody.